Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do at the very least 3 times a week, over the digital airwaves of YouTube and, of course, iHeartRadio. Got a lot of stuff to get into today, so I'm not going to waste too much time getting into it. The NBA play-in tournament is here, and that's exactly where we're getting started, with the NBA playoff matchups that were finally set yesterday on the last day of the regular season. And joining me now to break it all down is senior NBA writer and host of the Hoop Collective podcast, the one and only Wendy himself, Brian Windhorst. What's up, big time? How are you, man? How's everything?
Mr. Smith, always good to see you.
Well, first of all, before I start off, I just want to say thank you, because obviously you're being on the podcast, but also your contribution to First Take, my day job on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. The times that you've been on, you've been absolutely outstanding. I'm real proud of you, big boy. I really appreciate it. And I just wanted to thank you right here, just to your face. I wanted to say thank you for everything.
Thanks for having me. Last week, you took a couple of days off. It was the Masters were going on. I had to take up some of the heavy lifting. It's a heavy as that crown on First Take, let me tell you.
You did great. You did great. I was watching you, man. But listen, man, we got a lot of stuff to get into, but the first order of business is to get to the firings in the NBA at the conclusion of the regular season. Just a couple of hours ago or so, we've all learned the Phoenix Suns fired head coach Mike Budenholzer after going 36-46 and missing the playoffs in his first season with the team. Talk to me about, first of all, do you think this was the right decision, and what you think it means for the future of the Phoenix Suns in terms of their next coach, their failed roster, etc.? What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think Budenholzer was the biggest problem, but he certainly did not get the most out of that roster. And I think probably the biggest concern is that he seemed to not connect with Devin Booker. And going forward, I don't know who will be on that roster. Some of the guys, I'm not sure that they can change, but I'm sure Devin Booker will be there. And things didn't go well with him and Booker this year, and they have to focus on Booker now. That's got to be a franchise focus. And he and Booker did not vibe. And maybe if they'd have won, it'd have been different. Obviously, the best way I can describe the Suns is that over the last few years, they've been really good at talent acquisition. If you look at the talent they've brought in, Durant, Beal, even getting a guy like Tyus Jones. Hell, they acquired Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen led the league in three-pointers last year. This year he had some injuries and didn't. They get talent. What they can't do is team build. And I'm not so sure how much of that is Bud's fault. There's a lot of people who've got their fingerprints on that, but Bud pretty much got the least out of this group. I mean, if you look at their roster and you watch them play, you're like, how could this team only produce 36 wins? And I know they had some injuries. I think they were 33-29 when Kevin Durant played and 3-17 when he didn't. So I'm sure if I was Mike Budenholzer's agent right now, I'd say, well, you're firing me because Kevin Durant had some injuries. You're firing me because he sprained his ankle. That's fine, but still, even 33-29 with their talent with Durant doesn't make sense. They did not get the most out of this team, and that's just reality.
I remember I watched you on TV a couple of weeks ago, and it was very riveting what you were saying. This is a guy, and because I think the owner's the problem, Ishbia. There's no way around it. You get the ownership. You get the ownership of the Phoenix Suns. Monty Williams, who took your team to the finals, is gone. Chris Paul, who was your point guard in the backcourt with Devin Booker, he's gone. DeAndre Ayton, who was your starting center, he ultimately departed. You fire Monty Williams. You bring in Frank Vogel, and then after Frank Vogel, all right, he's gone after 1 year, and now Budenholzer is gone. And then you talked about all the picks that they've given up, how they've mortgaged their future, essentially. Talk to the audience about that and how bad things are in Phoenix right now in light of what I just articulated.
Yeah, I just want to take you back to 2021. They made the finals, okay? And if you remember, they're up 2-0 in the finals, and they sort of fell under the sword of Giannis Antetokounmpo, who came into full bloom. They won 4 straight games. If you can remember, I mean, it was one of the COVID years. But, he had this incredible Game 7. If you remember the team that they had, Stephen A., it was Devin Booker, who was, I think, drafted 10th or 11th. Something I'm in the late lottery. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was 13th. But it was a draft pick. You had Mikal Bridges, a guy they got on draft night. They made a draft night trade to acquire him. You had Cam Johnson, who, not going to the Hall of Fame probably, but an excellent role player who fit alongside Devin Booker beautifully. You had DeAndre Ayton, Now, DeAndre Ayton was taken in the Luka Doncic draft, and so if you want to say that they screwed that up, they took him 1. That's fair. However, they drafted him, and he led that. He was their franchise center. They went to the finals. The next year, he was their franchise center. They won 64 games. Those are all draft picks. They built that team through the draft. And then their big move, after they went 8, they had the bubble in Orlando. They went 8-0 in the bubble. Even though they didn't make the playoffs, Chris Paul saw them and said, that's a team I want to be a part of, and engineered a trade to get to Phoenix. But the core of the team was built through the draft. And after that, especially after Matt Ishbia bought the team, they just stopped drafting. They just started trading the picks and trying to get instantaneous improvement with veteran players. Those veteran players didn't work, and now they can't rescue themselves through the draft. This is a team that actually drafted very well, built a championship contending team through the draft, and has now gotten in a situation where even if they want to rebuilding through the draft they don't have any picks. They don't control their picks. So they really are in a situation of their own making. And it'd be one thing if they were in the middle or at the bottom and they led to this situation. They were at the top and they did this. Now, if Matt Ishbia was here and he was defending himself, what he would say is, well, you're talking about 2021, you're talking about 2022. When I made the Durant trade, the team wasn't performing well. That you're talking about a former version of the team, and that's a fair thing. But I know that taking the tools away from the decision makers on how they built the team, which was the draft.
Where would you possibly want to go? You're the Phoenix Suns. What team are you coveting will take him because of the assets you can get in return for his services? How do you answer that?
Before I answer this, I just want to say it's going to be hard to read the Durant situation until we see the playoffs play out. Because, for example, you could see a team surprise lose in the first or second round and wake up in mid-May and say, we are Kevin Durant away from winning it. And so the market for him in a month could be different than now. So that's my precursor. I do think the concept of the Knicks is an interesting one. Now, in my opinion, I've never understood why Kevin Durant didn't go to the Knicks in 2019 and instead went to the Nets. I get what they were building in Brooklyn was compelling. I have heard what he said about that. I don't understand why he wouldn't go to the Knicks. And I am not going to assume or guess at what Kevin has thought about that. The fact that the Knicks, as you know, Stephen A., they're probably not headed for a great postseason. They've had a very good regular season. They won 50 games. They've got some really good pieces. They have been shellacked by the teams ahead of them in the league. Not even shellacked. They have been totally washed out. They have no wins over any of the teams better than them in the league, essentially. And so they have some pieces that they could offer for Durant. Now, I'm not going to make any assumptions here because that's how you get out over your skis. And you got to see how the Knicks, maybe the Knicks will surprise us in the playoffs. But Durant has on the record with Draymond Green saying, I want to control my destiny.
Yep. He can't have the control now. Yeah, the bottom line is he's lost most of the control, or at least he should, because they haven't won. Bottom line, no way to slice it. I mean, he's been swept twice. He's been out in the first round and then went to the semifinals about one time over the last 5 years. That's what his career has been since he departed and went to Brooklyn. I mean, there's just no other way around it. Let me transition to New Orleans right now because the Pelicans have fired their president of basketball operations, David Griffin. In 6 seasons, the team's made the playoffs twice, but never won a series. I blame, obviously, Zion Williamson from the standpoint of his lack of